I'm Sam, and this is my dad, Joe. And today you meet my brother, Jordan.
Oh, hi.
Together over the past few weeks, we've showed you how we turned a pile of lumber into a fully functioning 12 by 12 shed. And today we're going to show you the last part of the exterior portion of the build, how to install windows and trim. Welcome to episode 4 of my Shed Shop series. This video is sponsored by my amazing friends at the Home Depot and DAP Products. If you missed any of the other episodes in my build series, you can check them all out on the Shed Shop playlist on my YouTube channel. Before even planning this shed happened, I knew I needed windows to help with the photography and the videography, and so Home Depot sent me 4 large handy home product windows that fit perfectly with my shed, and DAP gave me the products to install them. Before any installation could actually happen, I needed to make sure that I knew exactly where my windows wanted to be, because once I cut holes in the shed, I cannot go back. So I made my markings and then used a straight edge to create a line and an outline for me to trace with my saw later. I then used my drill and a paddle bit to create pilot holes at all 4 corners of this outline for my reciprocating saw blade to fit through. After pre-drilling the pilot holes, I then inserted the blade of my reciprocating saw into those holes and just traced the lines that I created with my pencil to cut out the actual window itself. And since I was cutting in between studs, it was sometimes hard to get the blade guard flush to the shed, so I had to be really careful to avoid as much bounce back as possible. And as you can see, my lines were not completely perfect, but that's okay because I figured out a way to fix them, and I'm going to show you that in a little bit. If building a shed without using solid siding panels like this one, you may want to build the openings for the windows while you're actually building the walls because that'll make it easier. But if you're using a kit like I did, this was really such an easy method. Next, I busted out my secret weapon and just used my cordless jigsaw to clean up all of the gross cuts that I made with the reciprocating saw.
Oh, hi.
Oh, hi. Next, we installed the top and the bottom of the window frame, which was included with the windows, into the surrounding studs. And usually this board is flipped so that the wider end is facing up, but due to space issues with my workbenches, I had to get creative and create my own windowsills, so I installed them this way and it worked just fine. Once everything was ready for the window, we prepped the surrounding area just using some of the extra tar paper that we use for the roofing, and we just stapled it to the inside of the sill and the outside of the siding to protect all of the wood in case any water got through or it rained. This is really just an extra step to help keep the wood protected when it rains. I'd be so devastated if anything went bad after working so hard on this build. The next step is where 2 people working together really comes in handy here, because while Jordan popped the window into the opening that we created, I was on the inside making sure that everything fit flush and that the window was level. And once I gave him the go-ahead, he just screwed in some screws that came with the kit to secure the window to the shed. And once he was done with that, we just used a blade to cut away any of the excess tar paper since we'll be adding siding. Even though my windows were made for this specific DIY shed kit that we used to build my workshop, there were small gaps that were in between the window and the studs, which was totally fine because I was able to use DAP's no warp window and door sealant with their hose to just insert some sealant in between the stud and the window to help insulate it and keep any unwanted cold out during the winter. Once I let that dry and expand overnight, I then just took a blade and cut away the excess. Really user-friendly, super simple, and made a huge impact in my shop now that it is cold outside. After all 4 windows were installed, it was time to add the exterior trim, and I added all of the trim on this workshop the same exact way, so I figured why not talk about it in one video. I essentially just painted all of the trim white using an exterior paint from Behr, and then once that dried, I flipped it over and added Dynagrip from DAP to the back of the boards. Dynagrip is a really strong construction adhesive that is used to bond porous and non-porous construction materials together, and I left the back of these boards unfinished to add a non-porous surface for the construction adhesive to be applied. I also sealed them in later, and I'll show you that in a little bit. Once the adhesive was applied, I added the trim to the windows and then also made sure to use my nailer to just shoot some nails into the trim as well. Once everything was attached, I then used DAP's Advanced Window, Door, Siding, and Trim Sealant to fill in literally every single gap between siding and trim on the entire shed shop. I then almost cried because the exterior portion of the build is finally complete and I have 4 beautiful windows, and I'm so excited to move on to the interior of this shed shop and show you what comes next. Please make sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel for more episodes and now for some really awesome shop projects. But until then, Happy New Year, you guys, and happy DIYing.